Local news, sports, talk, and community connection for the North Bay.
When news breaks or emergencies occur, tune us right in.
The Vine at 99.3 FM.
And to get posted updates on emergency situations, follow us on Facebook.
For podcast and broadcasting schedules, go to our website.
99.3 The Vine is owned and operated locally by Winedown Media.
It's the Wine Country Live morning show, Friday, the 4th of April, 2025. I'm Barry Martin, and Kara May is here, and we have a couple of guests joining us in studio right now to kick off something that we're going to be featuring once a month. The first Friday of the month is the plan. It's a segment on the Firewise issues that are so very important to each and every one of us here in Napa County. And joining us in studio now, District 3 Supervisor Anne Cottrell. Good morning.
Good morning, Barry. Good morning.
And Joe Nordlinger with Firewise. Good morning.
Good morning, Barry.
Thanks for coming in.
Sure, man.
All right, let's get us started. Anne, how about you lead off? What's this all about?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having us both. What we wanted to chat with you about today is to just underscore the collaboration between Napa County and all the investments that the county is making in wildfire prevention and the importance of our partner, Napa Firewise.
Joe, you're the CEO of
Correct.
Napa Firewise. What's that mean?
I run our organization. We have a number of paid staff, and we have funding from a variety of different sources. Obviously, Napa County is one of our huge partners when it comes to funding the work that we do. We have two large programmatic elements. One is hazardous fuel reduction, and the other is wildfire preparedness. In wildfire preparedness, we help landowners with defensible space cost share programs and hardening their home. And we also help with outreach and education through our 22 community fire safe councils. We also provide landowner services and guidance to help folks figure out how to make these resilience investments. It's a big, complicated issue. It can be fairly expensive, and so we work closely to help folks make these investments in the appropriate ways. And we work really closely with Napa County, who's a substantial funder of the work that we do.
What's your background coming into this?
I have a private sector background. I actually wound up founding and growing a pretty large professional services firm. So my background is really in developing and building professional services firms that understand what the addressable market is, what the services need to be, and how to scale these things up. I got involved with Wildfire because I purchased a piece of land out in the wildland urban interface and suddenly became very aware of fire. I purchased it before the two big mega fires in Napa, but quickly realized that I had vulnerability as it relates to fire, decided to go through the academy and become a volunteer firefighter, and then got very involved with a local fire safe council, the Mount Veeder Fire Safe Council. And so kind of nights and weekends volunteering, got involved with grant writing and writing community wildfire protection plans and thinking about the overall strategy for the county. And so I've been involved with this space now for about 9 years, before taking on the role as CEO of Napa Firewise about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm. So here we are in early April, and look out the window. It's beautiful. It's lush. The trees are blooming.
It's my favorite time of year.
It's beautiful, right?
Except for the allergies. So yeah, and it seems like the idyllic world. It's hard to imagine that, literally within 6 weeks from now, it could be so dry that we'll be thinking about fire danger, right? It's that quick that it can switch.
Correct.
What should people be doing right now, thinking about that? Could be 6 weeks, could be 12 or 18 weeks or whatever, but it's coming again.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I wanted to give one example of the way that the county and Firewise have collaborated. Last week, we held an Angwin Preparedness event. The Angwin Fire Safe Council organized and hosted us up in PUC, and we talked about just exactly your question: what can people do to prepare? And a lot of it is defensible space work. That means clearing vegetation next to a home or other structures. And we have a chipping program coming up. Again, another great place that Napa Firewise collaborates, where folks can gather their woody material and put it on the side of the road and work with the chipping program to come have that chipped and really reduce the risk around their home. So those are important first steps to do. And then we're starting a larger conversation about home hardening. What can people do around their homes? Cover their vents with screens, make sure there's not places where dry material is gathered gathering up next to the side of a house. So small things that have to happen every year.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and I think it's a kind of an overwhelming issue, but there are a lot of resources that are available. The county has a program that allows you to have what's called an LE 100 inspection, and so their fire inspectors can come out and look at your place. There's no cost for it, and they'll give you a number of prescriptive things that you can do to your home. Napa Firewise also has a cost share program where we can actually offset some of the costs of doing that defensible space work. So to Anne's point, during the winter, the early spring, those are the times you really want to be preparing your place, thinking about clearing fuel from around your house, making sure that you're doing those, remediative, hardening projects on your home before things start to dry out and before we enter into that fire season that we all are aware of now.
Yeah.
So for those services, do you have to live in a specific area in Napa County? Are they available to anyone?
The resources, so if you would like to have an LE 100 inspection, you can have that done whether you're unincorporated or in the city, because I believe the Napa City Fire Department or the city fire districts also provide those inspections. Some of the cost share programs, I believe, are are focused on areas that are in the high or very high severity fire risk areas or adjacent. And so, generally speaking, we're going to be providing those cost share programs to folks that are out in higher risk areas as opposed to somebody that lives downtown or something like that.
Right. So, for example, the community of Calistoga, their Firewise Council, Fire Safe Council, was very instrumental in bringing those dollars to the community. So they were able to provide, working with Firewise, up to a $3,500 match for defensible space work. And the other thing, while people can look at their own parcels and property, I think it's important to remind all of us it's a shared responsibility. It's not just up to one individual or entity. It's a collaborative effort. So at the same time as all this work can happen in a private residence, or I also want to just give a shout out to all the wineries who are really investing in defensible space around their structures, because it makes such a difference in reducing risk. But also at the same time in this early springtime is when roadside maintenance projects can be happening, which is to remove vegetation along the sides of roads. And the county has a road easement to be able to do work in the public right of way, but something that we've been able to do collaborating with Firewise, they can go out and talk to individual landowners and say, hey, could we have permission to do more work further out away from the roadside? So that just expands the safety zone that we're able to reduce risk on.
That has a big impact on evacuations, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, access and egress evacuation routes, and also for first responders to get into key areas. So the county has done a phenomenal job, and we've been a big part of it, in funding the clearing of almost all the county roads we've gone through, and we've done an initial set of roadside clearing. Sometimes it's just the right of way, but oftentimes we're going 30, 50 feet off a center line. CAL FIRE's been a substantial funder of that work as well, and we're sort of gearing up now. We're really almost in a maintenance mode on many of the county roads, but the roads are critical.
We saw examples, I'm sure, that I'm not quite dialed in on specifics, of home hardening that worked in fires here in the North Bay. But most recently in the LA fires, I did see some very clear stories talking about why did this house not burn when everything around it did. And let's talk about the home hardening aspect for just a minute. Like you say, some of these measures can be very expensive and involve a lot of planning and work. But what are some things people can think about to get started in the home hardening approach?
Yeah, I mean, lower cost and sort of simple things are, one, defensible space. You want to make sure that you have your zone 5 to 10, all the way out to 100 feet. So you want to make sure you're using smart landscaping, you don't have wood piles up next to the house, et cetera. Those are sort of defensible space measures. From a hardening standpoint, there are more expensive things like making sure you have a Class A fire-rated roof, or maybe windows or cladding on the siding of your house. But there are a lot of really small things too. Replacing all of the vents on your home with a fine mesh or a Vulcan vent is a relatively low-cost way of ensuring that those embers, when there's a fire, don't enter your basement cavity or up into your attic. A lot of homes wind up burning from the inside out because of ember penetration. Another thing is gutter guards, just making sure that you can have a Class A rated roof, but if you have open gutters and embers accumulate in the gutter, then they start to burn what's called the underlayment underneath the shingles. And so just getting gutter guard on your gutters is an important measure to make sure that you're hardening your home against ember penetration as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize just what Joe was saying. There's really a range of things that folks can do. And as you point out, it can be cost prohibitive. And the county has received some grant money to provide support for homeowners, particularly in this wildland urban interface, to be able to do some of this work. And I've been over in Lake County where they are actually in the process of doing a lot of this home hardening. And it really ranges the gamut from simple things like putting in vent screens, which catch those embers. The other one I've seen is when folks have decks to be able to provide some kind of barrier so that that's not just open to the air, but so that embers don't sneak up under that deck. And that can make a huge difference. And it may not be as costly as some of the other items, too.
Yeah, deck skirting is what that's called. And the program that Supervisor Cottrell mentioned, we're in the planning phase of that right now. We're working with the county on it. So there's pretty substantial funds that will be coming online, likely 26-ish, for essentially cost share programs to help people with some of these more expensive hardening measures like new roof or new windows or cladding, siding and claddings that are hardened for the perimeter of your house or whatever.
Yeah, just to give an example too on that, one of the things that I saw over in Lake County, a deck, many people have wooden decks, for example, and the prescription there is not necessarily replace the entire wooden deck, but replace the first foot or so and make that a non-wood, non-combustible substance. So a lot of things can make the difference just to stop that wicking impact of a fire moving close to the home.
I was just flashing back to the house I bought here in the city of Napa 25 years ago that had about a 20-year-old wood shake roof on it.
Right.
And
not very fire resistant.
At the moment, it was just totally normal. A lot of people had that situation. Today, if you were buying a house, you'd look at that and go, oh, my God, we can't live with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They make actually hardened materials. I mean, part of this is an aesthetic thing. This is all stuff that you sort of have to make these tough choices, but they've innovated a lot of products that will mimic a craftsman style look, but are made out of a hardy or a concrete material or something like that.
But Barry, I think you raise a great point that whenever you purchased that home, it wasn't in our collective consciousness that was a problem. And so one of the biggest features about the collaboration between the county and Firewise is the education that can happen, right? Because we're almost in the age of, remember the adoption of seatbelts, where we had to change our mindset that these are really important requirements to be safe. And I think we're in the middle of that shift and thinking about, hey, how do we make our homes safe in this age of wildfire?
Yeah.
And it's a transformation of the housing stock because the code has evolved. I mean, the building code, if your home was built in the last 10 years, it's likely built to a standard, the WUI code, and it's probably pretty hardened. But, it's older housing inventory that we need to, steadily work with deliberate haste to make sure that we bring them up to that WUI code as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. So when we talk about home hardening, we're looking at all homes, but particularly pre-2008 homes.
Mm.
Outstanding.
Like mine.
It's our first episode of a new series of shows on the first Friday of the month, Firewise, The Focus, and we've been talking with Supervisor Anne Cottrell and the CEO of Firewise, Joe Nordlinger. Before we wrap up, I'm sure there are web resources to learn more about these cost share programs and so on.
Yeah, if you just napafirewise.org is a site that is up, obviously, and we have a lot of information about resources that you can access. We like to sort of consider ourselves a hub, so there's a lot of grant and programs that we manage. There's also a lot of grants and programs that we collaborate with or influence out there in sort of the sphere of other agencies that we work with. So Napa Firewise is a good source destination to learn about all kinds of things with other agency partners, with the county, to do this work around your property.
Right.
Yeah. And the one other thing I would add is all this home hardening work that we hope that residents will do to be safer also makes a difference in terms of insurance. So that's probably for another visit. But Joe and I will be going to Washington, D.C. next week with the vintners to talk about many issues impacting Napa County. And one of the things we'll be hitting on is so much work is happening in the county to make our risk lower that we need to see credit from the insurance industry here.
Very, very important. Supervisor Cottrell, thank you. Joe, thank you. Nice
Thank
to meet
you.
All right. Thanks for coming in today.
Local news, sports, talk, and community connection for the North Bay.
When news breaks or emergencies occur, tune us right in.
The Vine at 99.3 FM.
And to get posted updates on emergency situations, follow us on Facebook.
For podcast and broadcasting schedules, go to our website.
99.3 The Vine is owned and operated locally by Wind Down Media.